behind that, I had an Excel file. So if there was a request and then finally booking, I just changed the color of the cells, made a screenshot, and we're uploading it again. And then the website was updated. So that's how it started.
Welcome to Two-Sided, the Marketplace podcast, brought to you by ShareTribe.
Hello and welcome. I'm Sjoerd, CMO at ShareTribe, and I am your host. Camper vans, RVs, #van life. A lot of us have probably daydreamed about spending a few weeks on the road in an RV, see more of our own country, nature, or other countries. Just get in the van, park it wherever you want, and that will be your home for the night. At least I have dreamed of it, and I also know today's guest has. And in fact, he loved this so much that he founded a company around it. I'm talking today to Dirk Fehse, founder and CEO of PaulCamper, Europe's leading marketplace for RV rentals. It's a beautiful story, driven by passion, started out really lean, as you will hear. We talk about how PaulCamper got started, how Dirk built it really piece by piece, how they kept the quality under control, and what's quite special is how they used insurance as an anti-disintermediation tool, and how much work Dirk actually needed to do to get this insurance product into existence. All in all, another terrific episode, if I say so myself, but please let me know your thoughts. You can tweet at us at ShareTribe or send me an email at sjoerd@sharetribe.com. One note, again, just for reference, this was already recorded in August 2021. One more practical thing, the podcast is taking a summer break. It will be back on September 13th, but this does not mean you have to be without a Marketplace podcast. Instead, you can listen to our other podcast, the Marketplace Academy podcast, where each week my colleague Katri will be releasing an episode on how to fund your marketplace. You can find this podcast on all the same platforms. Just search for Marketplace Academy Podcast, and you should be able to find it. If you have trouble finding it, just tweet to us at ShareTribe. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the real important part. Here is my conversation with Dirk Fehse from PaulCamper. Hi, Dirk. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks.
Thanks for joining. Before we dive into the marketplace specifics of PaulCamper, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you did before you started PaulCamper?
I'm Dirk. I'm 39. I grew up on the countryside and I studied business administration and was working afterwards for PwC as an advisor. So my background is a bit of the financial nature. But my passion lies in traveling and especially camping and RVing. So that's why I'm now running my own company called PaulCamper.
And how did you get the idea of PaulCamper?
In the middle of my studies, I was living in Australia. And in Australia, traveling with RV, the camper van is actually the best choice because of the long distances. And there I realized that this is the best way of traveling for me because I'm totally flexible. I have everything essential with me. At the same time, I'm in the middle of the nature. So I felt the freedom and that was really an important understanding for me. So coming back to Europe, I wanted to travel Europe and discover Europe the same way, but I realized it's not really possible with the conventional rental companies. So that's when I bought myself a van, VW T4, and I converted it to a camper van and named it Paul. And because of borrowing the money to buy it, and also the understanding that it's just, even if I was a student back then, it will stand 80% of the time unused on the street. So that's why I said to myself, I'm only doing this, I'm only investing in this if I share it with others. So that's kind of the beginning. So I was sharing Paul before I started PaulCamper as a company because that was the result of understanding, hey, there's much more demand than I expected and more people that have a pain like I had in the past.
Okay. So that's interesting. So, but by the way, before I forget, so is Paul still around?
Yeah, you can still. I just handed over Paul yesterday. to an older couple that are now traveling for 3 weeks.
Oh, great. And then, and so when you did the initial just sharing your own van, like, was there any tech involved or how did you handle that?
No, it was purely manual, let's say it like this.
Yeah.
Like the first step was just listing it with eBay Kleinanzeigen here in Germany, which is eBay Classifieds, right? Where you just can for free list your van. And that was the start. And then I was just interested to build up my own website. So I did a do-it-yourself website for €5 a month.
Yeah.
Which was just a really website, no booking platform or anything, but I could present more than on eBay. I could put a calendar on, more pictures,
Yeah.
and so forth. And behind that, I had an Excel file where I had a calendar for Paul. So if there was a request and then finally booking, I just changed the color of the cells, made a screenshot, and we're uploading it again. And then the website was updated. So that's how it started.
So that was your booking calendar, like a screenshot of an Excel file with the color code.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
It was really per 1 month per line, and then the days, of course, and then different colors. And that's actually also like when I decided to really make a business out of it, 1st of January in 2013.
Oh well.
I was still using this website and the Excel file behind for another half a year. And I already listed other vans. So my Excel file just had more calendars. And that's the way how it started. So really, really lean. Let's
yeah, very low tech. Yeah, I love that. Like, that's not the first time on this podcast that spreadsheets have been used as sort of the initial backend, because it just works. And at what point did you think, like, because initially, so you were having by yourself maybe multiple vans. At what point did you realize that, oh, actually this could be, like an eBay or like a marketplace for camper vans?
No, when I was starting it at 1st of January, I was already renting out my van for 2 years. And I realized that there's more demand than I can serve. So that's why I decided to build up this kind of marketplace. And I tried to acquire the first owners that were also listed on, like put the van on eBay Classifieds, for example. Of course, that was very slow. So I talked to one person. Everything was very direct. So I was talking to each and everyone. So one person, for example, she was interested, but then finally decided against it because she moved to Russia. But the van was nice, so I bought it. That was Sophie. So at the beginning, I had 2. But then that was the maximum. The others were all owned by other people. And I think 1 year later or something, I decided to sell Sophie again.
Yeah.
Why? Because actually I earned more money with Paul and Sophie than with the brokerage of all those other vans. But it took me a lot of time. I mean, operating a van, like handing over and everything, is a lot of time. So I asked myself, okay, where do you believe more and more? What's the basic idea? The basic idea is to build up a marketplace.
Yeah.
So every 5 hours per month that I invest in renting out Sophie is 5 hours that I can't invest in PaulCamper. So that's why I decided to sell it. I sold it to a renter, actually, who became then the owner of the platform, which is still kind of...
at least you didn't lose the supply. Yeah.
Exactly, which still happens on the marketplace. So I had 2, but the others were all owned by other people. And then I realized, okay, there is some traction, and I need more than just my do-it-yourself website. So that's why I asked 2 guys who were specialized in WordPress to build, let's say, the second version of PaulCamper.
Mm-hmm.
That went live half a year later, and I think I paid 3.5K, so not much, but I had it was much more proper, still no back end, but a more user-friendly front end. So meaning you could choose rent out or to rent, and then you had a map of Germany where you could see where the vans are located, and a list next to it where you can click on, and then you had a camper profile, for example. If you set a request, it was just a contact formula that went into my Outlook. So behind that, everything is still manual.
Yeah, but the search part, sort of like, like if you divide like a marketplace transaction between like browsing or searching, selecting, that searching and selecting part was more automated with them.
It wasn't there yet. I mean,
Okay.
I went from one camper van in January to 43 end of 2013.
43.
Meaning in summer I had 30 or something. So it was just a pure list. There was no search function because the search function was another 1K or something.
Yeah.
So and I just could use what I've earned, right?
Yeah. Okay. And so let's go back a little bit to how you then acquired those 43 people, because did that all go? You previously mentioned through eBay. Was that how the initial growth went on the supply side?
Yeah, that was the initial way, because it's hard to see them, like owners that are willing to rent out, and the ones that listed their van on eBay or eBay Classifieds, they were quite concrete. So I could approach them. I just said, like, hey guys, I'm also renting out my van. I have a small platform. I have more demand than I can serve. If you like, just join me. And it was more a handshake deal at the beginning.
Yeah.
And if I bring you a renter, would be cool if I get 10%.
Yeah.
Nothing more.
Yeah. No, because it is like in the first episode of last season, I talked to this person called Lenny Rashitsky. I think you might know, or he used to work at Airbnb. And he has like deep dived into like the 50 or something biggest marketplace in the US, and he interviewed loads of people from there. And he has divided like a couple of these like early supply onboarding strategies. And one of them is like he called like piggybacking on existing data, I think is the name. And then where basically that is also what you did. You found already sort of an existing supply, and you just like basically took it from the platform and like, oh, hey, how about this other platform that I have? So yeah, it's really cool to see that worked out for you. And then how did you get the other side on board initially? Because like covering 43 of vans, you need quite a bit of demand.
Yes, actually, I didn't do anything. Because the demand was there.
Okay.
So what I think helped is that the existing market just consisted of motorhomes, so the bigger ones. And I was kind of naturally specialized at the beginning on camper vans, so more the VW type. And there was no one doing this between private people. So the entire website, like the communication, was rent a camper van from private people, and that wasn't there before. So there had been already people looking for camper vans or a smaller one from private people. So I was automatically getting this traffic.
Okay.
And when the WordPress platform started in, I think, June 13, they had what I really liked, they had a SEO plugin. And I think that it was purely SEO at the beginning. And because it was really, really, really narrowed down.
Yeah. So just pure organic search. And there wasn't any, how about word of mouth? Like, did you feel that was early on?
Yeah, word of mouth was definitely one part, especially on the supply side.
Okay.
Because when people discover that and then they just carry it forward. On the demand side, the word of mouth worked more, not within the season, but then for next season.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Like, what did you do this summer? Well, we rented this van. Okay, that's what we're going to do next summer as well. Yeah.
But in the end, I mean, camping is thriving for the last 10 years, and people were looking for it. And suddenly there was someone offering a very specific supply, which wasn't available on conventional websites, because it was much more cheaper. It was small, used, cheaper, more personal approach. So the interesting thing is, I thought my offer is solely for student couples that don't have any money.
Yeah.
But then suddenly I had also families, like where the father was a lawyer and the mother was a boss of a small shop. So, and they had 2 kids and they were traveling with my van where you even can't stand inside.
Yeah.
Right. So I had like, why do you choose for mine? You can
afford a much bigger one.
You can afford a much, let's call it, better thing, or like more convenient.
Yeah.
So they said, yes, we could, but we don't need to. Actually, the van is just for driving and sleeping. Everything else happens outside. Plus, we like to give the money like spend it in the neighborhood and not with other companies. So
Yeah.
that was really eye-opening and showed me that there is a spot that is not covered yet.
Yeah. Basically, you realize that, hey, there's a whole other market. Like, it's not just this particular segment, but there's a whole segment also that is interested in this. Yeah. And I always ask this question, but I'm always very interested. So did you initially constrain the marketplace in any way? I think that, like you said, like you specialized initially in camper vans only. Any like regional? I mean, Germany is quite big. So how did you do that?
So there wasn't any, like, I think what answers your question the best is that there wasn't any constraint that I set intentionally. Of course, I mean, I was in Germany. I spoke German, so I was just looking in Germany for supply.
Yeah.
Right. And the entire website was just in German, just because of like
Oh, that
sorry.
helps.
So maybe that's a constraint. I don't know. But there was no constraint where to go with the van. So you
No.
could, like, it was just constrained by the insurance. So like, but it was entire Europe. And also like the camper van were this motorhome thing. Or camper van were this RV, and if we talk in American English. I started with camper vans because I thought this is the spot. But then suddenly also owners of bigger ones, like of motorhomes, wanted to join. And I
Okay.
said, like, of course, why not? I mean, happy to, right?
Yeah.
So also this, I wouldn't call it a constraint, but what might be a constraint is, I think you call it more a managed marketplace. So PaulCamper was at the beginning much more managed
Yeah.
than today, because I wanted to give a different offer to the potential demand than there was in the market. So every van only had one price per night, regardless of the season. That was
Okay.
our typical. Then I kind of forced every lender to put a buffer day behind and before every rental, because my own experience was that sometimes the renters are coming back too late, or something breaks down, and then it just stress to just have a gap of, or like a time span
Yeah.
of 2-3 hours in between. So and as most of my supply hadn't done that before, I felt I need to manage it a bit more, right? Also, no millage limitation and so forth. So that's what I did, which you could call a constraint, but what then over time got loosened.
But was there initially more like a hotspot? Like, I don't know, where in Germany did you start this? So like, was it mostly, for example, around Berlin, or was it around the area, I don't know, where you lived at the time? Or was it like straight, like from the beginning all over Germany?
It was from the beginning all over Germany because it was online. At the same time, Berlin was kind of the biggest part, and it still is, if we just look at Germany. But at the same time, Berlin is the biggest city in Germany. So it's hard to say if it's because of that or not.
Yeah.
In the beginning, there was much more personal involvement. So, of course, I could much more easily talk to people direct in Berlin than in Bavaria.
Of course, yeah.
But the fleet, like the 43 vans on the platform, after 1 year, they were completely distributed.
Yeah.
All over Germany.
Okay. So while you grew from 2 to 43, and then I guess even like faster in the next years, how do you maintain the quality for the marketplace? Because I'm imagining like at one point initially you're a managed marketplace, so then it's a little bit easier to control. How did you make when you transfer to a less managed, like how did you maintain the quality?
In the first, so PaulCamper was bootstrapped for the first 4 years.
Okay.
And in this time, PaulCamper essentially consists of operations, meaning customer support and the onboarding team. So the quality was mainly managed due to or through personal interaction and personal contact.
Okay. Yeah.
And then as it got bigger, we built up on those experiences and just automized them. So for example, the supply, of course, they create their profile, but there's still a manual check at the end regarding the pictures, the content, and so forth. So this also has good potential to automize fully. And it is like from back then to today, I think it's 90% automized. But you can, I think, get rid of the last personal interaction. So mainly it's about having a certain quality when listing at the supply side. And then, of course, it's like with most marketplaces, it's about the review system you have in place. because even though everything looks fine, you don't know how, in this case, the supply will behave in 1 year or something. So
Yeah.
you need to have a proper review system in place where you then also get a red flag or something if something doesn't work well, and then talk to the person, and either you can come to a point where you say, okay, I'm still with you, or you say, okay, maybe you have different understanding of how to deliver experience to the renters, and then you just
Hmm.
separate. So
Yeah.
that's to my mind natural.
Yeah. Has that happened a lot?
I mean, we couldn't have the growth if the churn has been large, right?
No. Well, that's
So,
true. Yeah.
but there are some, especially because, I mean, typical thing with marketplaces is to intermediate, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard with us,
Hmm.
because we have the insurance in between that you can get through PaulCamper. But
Yeah.
still, there are people like, I mean, I'm now talking about really rare cases
Of course.
where
Yeah.
they just like in the end set the price down after the contact has been made, and then
Yeah.
the rest of the part gets paid in cash or something. But
Okay.
that's really rare.
Yeah, because actually that was going to be my next question, because like these aren't small payments, I guess, at times. So like I was wondering, how do you combat this disintermediation, like when that happens? Well, you mentioned the insurance.
Yeah, so that's because of the insurance part, which I'm happy to explain. We never had a real focus on this topic because it's not a big topic with us like with other marketplaces.
Yeah.
So typically, if you own an RV or a car, it doesn't matter. You have an insurance, and insurance insures your personal use.
Yeah.
If you rent it out 10 times a year, it's a different risk. So it's not insured by your insurance company and not covered by your policy. And you can even get hard fines if you misuse it.
Yeah.
So what we, after 4 years, managed is to build an own insurance product for our use case together with Allianz. And that's a
Okay.
daily based insurance that comes on top. So and that was also one of the growth levers supply wise, because before it was very hard. You needed to get the existing commercial insurance policy. Therefore, you needed to register as a commercial owner, blah, 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 blah. So really, like it took you.
Huge friction. Yeah.
So I was able to onboard a decent fleet, but after all that has gone because of the new insurance product, that you could say, hey, you can just list your van, try it out, no effort, and if there's a rental, it will automatically be covered. The insurance will be covered by
Yeah.
Allianz. Easy. That was a growth lever, and at the same time, you have at least usually two for both sides, but at least one side that is for one side it's important that the trip is insured.
Okay.
And because it's your annual vacation, right? You are going with your family and you don't want to risk anything. And this is not a product you can buy on the market. It just can be activated if you push the book now button on our platform. So that prevents, I think, the major part of intermediation.
Yeah. That's terrific. Yeah, because that's often like that also reminds me of like the Airbnb story, right? Where they, at one point, they had to, like when they did this instant book button, for example, first they had to put the insurance in place, etc. But I think Airbnb did it relatively late. Like, was it a lot of trouble for you to get that insurance product into existence?
Let me shortly answer on your statement beforehand.
Yeah.
That's interesting because Airbnb, for those marketplaces, is just a marketing tool. You don't really need the insurance.
No. It's just to create like
ease of
mind. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
In our business, it's legally necessary. You're not allowed to rent out a car or a van without the proper insurance, right? So also Get Around or Drivey, all those needed to have such an insurance in place.
Okay.
And the other question, it was one of the toughest things to get. It took me almost 4 years. I was talking to literally every insurance, every broker, but it wasn't that easy because rental policies are a red flag for insurance companies. And then RVs are also a red flag for rental companies. And then it's a digital product, which is something that they're still not good at. So
Yeah.
all that three combined was like the worst
Three worlds.
precondition to get something like this. But eventually, I found one person at Allianz. So it's really about the personal connection
Oh, wow.
that believed in the market and believed in us. And then it was pretty hands-on, which is how you say.
It's not common in the
It's not
insurance
common
industry.
in this industry. Pretty hands-on to establish that.
Yeah. Wow, 4 years. That is a deep investment into. That's the longest running growth experiment you've had.
At the same time, we understood we just need such kind of insurance, otherwise we just can't operate it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Like with ShareTribe, we did, I think in 2016 or 17, we commissioned like a research into what insurance is out there. And it was like, indeed, like just like you mentioned, like it was basically like non-existing, very experimental, only a few ones. And yeah, so that's really impressive that you got that up and running, because I think that's where, I think it's more common, especially like these sort of like on-demand products are more common. But yeah.
Back then it wasn't common.
No. So you mentioned that insurance was one of the biggest growth levers. Do you have any other growth levers you'd like to share on either side?
Yeah, back then, I mean, on the supply side, it was, I mean, PaulCamper started, as I mentioned, very organic and direct heavy, like SEO.
Yeah.
And we built up a strong brand right from the beginning. So like it was, the brand itself was catchy, people could remind.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest levers in the beginning, supply-wise, was our community and word of mouth. So we started actually to make community events in Germany twice a year. Since COVID, they are paused, but we had until like the first one was in the first year in October, and we had at this time in October we had 35 vans, and we made an event in the middle of Germany. Just like meeting on Saturday, having a beer, getting to know each other, stay there overnight, and that's it.
Did everybody bring their van?
And, yeah, exactly. And we had 20 participants. There was more than 50% of the fleet back then, and they came from all over Germany. Meaning, people drove 500k for one night.
Yeah.
And that was amazing, and that was like, especially for me, it was very important because I'm more a physical guy, and that's what we built up. And it ended like pre-COVID. This events turned out to be like, we call it Paul's Camp. The supply is paying for that.
Okay.
To join, because they get great value, like workshops and so forth. And it's from Friday to Sunday with live bands and bonfire and so forth. And
wow.
And you could really also make a lot of tests there, like, for example, how many people are willing to brand their van with the PaulCamper logo and so forth. So that was definitely one thing. The online version of this, it is a closed group, Facebook group, where more than 1,000 owners are connected. So that was a big thing. So word of mouth and community, and the SEO and SEO part. Like for 3-4 years, we are also investing into paid search. And that's also something that works well. I mean, it's same with Airbnb. After when it became like of natural to rent out your flat, then it's a topic at the bubble.
Yeah, suddenly, right? Suddenly that intent exists. Yeah,
exactly. So that was on the supply side, and the demand was always there. So because, as I said, it's an industry that is thriving. And most of the demand, so half of the demand, is also coming via organic and direct.
Yeah, so you mentioned the community events, it's growth lever, paid search is growth lever, so let's pick it up from there. Is there anything you would have done differently in the journey?
Oh, that's a tough question. Usually I'd say I regret nothing, because otherwise I wouldn't be here. At the same time, of course, I mean, I'm still always looking at like, how do I manage the next half year and understand the next levers. But at the same time, I was in front of this question the last 8 years.
Okay.
And I somehow managed. So of course I've learned a lot, and I think I would if I start from scratch, and not necessarily PaulCamper, but another marketplace, I would focus more on data to have it earlier in place and work with it. And I would put more focus on the product itself. So what we did, as there was always huge growth, we were more in the operating modus, but less in the, okay, what is more the strategic perspective and which parts are really important, because sometimes you just need then to stop to earn what comes in organically to, for example, to set up the product or something. That's what I, for example, would maybe change in the future.
One last question. Could you tell us where is PaulCamper now? Like roughly in terms of like what countries are you in? How big are you? And then what's up for PaulCamper in the future?
Today, we've crossed 1 million nights sold.
Oh, wow.
We crossed 100 million in GMV. And we just crossed 10,000 RVs on the platform.
Oh,
Remember,
wow.
in the first year, we had 43. We are currently active in 4 countries: Germany, Netherlands, Austria, and we just launched UK. We are roughly 80 people. And we are still in the kind of COVID mode, which hurts us on the short term because if travel is restricted, it also affects our bookings. At the same time, it accelerates the shift in travel that it has been going on before COVID anyway. So I think on the mid and long term, more and more people will use this way of traveling. So it's beneficial to us. And where we want to go is the purpose of PaulCamper is enabling people having a great time in the outdoors. And the RV is just literally the vehicle to get there. And that's what we call phase 1. So phase 1 is we want to be serving all of Europe with our core product of brokering RVs. Phase 2 is to offer a full stack camping trip, meaning that people not only can rent a van via PaulCamper, but also the campsite, the ferry to Norway, so a full trip, because that's what they already request.
Okay.
More than 60% of our renters are renting a van for the first time in their life because of PaulCamper. And they need a bit more guidance, where to go, what to take care of, and so forth. And phase 3 would be the full stack outdoor experience. So PaulCamper becoming an outdoor company, not an RV rental company.
Yeah.
So for example, serving or like you can, like the cabin you're in currently, maybe you can in the future book it via PaulCamper or a treehouse. Because what it is about, it's not about the RVs in the end. It's about having a great time in the outdoors. So that's where we are still heading to.
Okay, wow, that's a fantastic purpose. I didn't even know that. Okay, yeah, I completely subscribe to that personally. All right, Dirk, well, thanks very much. Thanks very much for sharing this with us. And thanks very much for taking the time. And I wish you and PaulCamper all the best.
Sure, thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to Two-Sided, the Marketplace podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to subscribe. If you listen on iTunes, we'd also love for you to rate and give us a review. If you got inspired to build your own marketplace, go visit www.sharetribe.com. It's the fastest way to build a successful online marketplace business. Until next time.